I'm Kristen Oakes-White.
And I'm Avery Davidson. Thank you for joining us for this special edition of This Week in Louisiana Agriculture. We're a long drive down I-10 in Texas for the 106th Annual American Farm Bureau Convention.
San Antonio set the stage to welcome farmers and ranchers from across the country to discuss policy, financial concerns, and everything in between.
You'll likely recognize the famed San Antonio River Walk, which started as a flood mitigation project and now attracts millions of tourists every year.
It's also home to the Alamo, the site of the last battles of the Texas Revolution, leading to Texas statehood in 1845. That makes it a fitting site for farmers to fight for important recognition from the federal government. Much of that fight is centered on getting Congress to pass a new farm bill this year.
Lawmakers passed a one-year extension of the 2018 Farm Bill late last year, but folks here are quick to point out that the safety net in that bill is not adequate to cover 2025 costs. That said, the chairman and ranking member of the House Ag Committee told attendees they're confident they can get a new farm bill passed this year. Growing crops in Louisiana can make farmers feel like circus performers with nothing to catch them. At least that's how Beauregard Parish grain farmer David Smith says he feels following another extension of the 2018 Farm Bill.
We do need a safety net, a new one. I say tighten up the old safety net, whatever you have to do, because farmers now are walking the tightrope and the wind's blowing.
It appears farmers from across the country feel the same way. It was standing room only in the Farm Bill Conference at the American Farm Bureau Convention in San Antonio, Texas. They're all here to listen to House Ag Committee Chairman G.T. Thompson of Pennsylvania and House Ag Committee Ranking Member Angie Craig of Minnesota discuss what it's going to take to get Congress to pass an updated farm bill this year. Chairman Thompson says with Craig by his side and with his counterparts in the Senate, he's confident Congress can get it done.
All the leaders are kind of lining up, and I think the 119th Congress is going to be a good time to really finish what we got started in the 118th Congress, which was a good, strong bipartisan bill that we built. We had some disagreements on how we paid for enhancements to the safety net. But I think that there's a pathway forward on that.
Ranking Member Craig says the pathway must be bipartisan because the party in power only has a 2-seat majority in the House.
The truth is that there are about 30 Republicans on their side of the aisle who are never going to vote for a farm bill. The Freedom Caucus in particular, and then Democrats, the nutrition title is important. Crop insurance is important to me. The conservation title is important to a lot of my members and myself. But you're not going to have a farm bill without a strong nutrition title. So I think once we agree that that's important, we can sit down and hammer it out. That's what happened in 2018, the farm bill that we've now extended twice. We need to get there. We need to get back to work and get this done.
Both Craig and Thompson agree these farmers and ranchers need a farm bill this year. But the big question is when, because without that updated Title I safety net with current reference prices, farmers will continue to lose money because of high input costs and low commodity prices.
Really can't give it a timeline, but the sooner we can get that done as opposed to waiting towards the end of the year. If we wait towards the end of the year, we're going to have to come back to Congress for more economic disaster relief. And, producers don't want that. I don't want that to happen. I'm absolutely confident with enhancements to the safety net, if we're able to do get this farm bill across the finish line sooner than later, we can avoid the need for that.
Smith does have a timeline in mind.
Soon as this spring. Why can't we get something going, this spring? Cannot wait till we did like last year to the end of the year. Because then you're also, where's disaster? You're doing something for disaster or something like that. We need it not only for the farm bill, we need it on the NRCS side, the conservation side. There's a lot of tools that we use on our farm on that side that helps us be more productive in our operation, to help us increase our yields and to be more conservation towards our earth, if you want to call it, that we are looking to be good stewards, which we are. We are the best stewards. And they have tools on that side that we can also use. But the farm bill, a safety net, conservation, it all works together, it all ties in. And farmers that I know, we all use those products and those inputs, and it's very important.
A group of Louisiana young farmers and ranchers are going to Washington, D.C. next month. TWILA will tag along and bring you updates on Farm Bill movement from the nation's capital.
Another important topic discussed at the 106th Annual American Farm Bureau Convention, labor. In Louisiana, implementation of an increased adverse effect wage rate for H-2A workers who also drive trucks remains on hold following a court injunction. American Farm Bureau President Zippy Duvall says he had several meetings with the officials during the Biden administration about this issue. He believes part of the problem is an antiquated system used to create the adverse effect wage rate.
We know that survey is like 40 or 50 years old, and it was not created to create a wage rate. It was created for another purpose. So we're hoping they're going to reevaluate how they do that, make it more fair to the employee and the employer so that we can have a fair wage rate out there.
Louisiana Farm Bureau will host the Mid-South Labor Seminar in the coming months, where farmers and ranchers can learn more about this issue.
Labor and immigration go hand in hand. You can't change the rules for one without affecting the other. The U.S. Department of Homeland Security estimates that nearly 11 million people illegally entered the country between 2021 and 2024. With the new administration taking over in Washington, D.C., stronger border security and harsher penalties are among their highest priorities. Immigration has a nationwide impact, but none bigger than right here in Texas, where 1,200 miles of border are shared with Mexico.
To get a first-hand look at life near the border, TWILA's Josh Meeks traveled to Kinney County, just a stone's throw away from the most contentious line in America.
Agricultural life here in southern Texas is not that different from what you'll see in Louisiana. Ranchers have to deal with predation, water issues, livestock health. But being this close to the border, they also have to worry about people illegally crossing the border, damaging their property, and threatening their livelihoods.
It's winter in Kinney County, but the blazing sun over the U.S.-Mexico border can be relentless. There's not much shade on John Paul Schuster's ranch, but he says there are still plenty of shadows to hide in.
We see them occasionally on the ranch, 2 or 3 or something. They might holler or something, or if you see them, they're going to go take off and go the other way because they don't want to get seen. But it's a different atmosphere in the last 4.5 years out here.
He's talking about trespassers, specifically those illegally crossing the southern border.
It has been a huge financial burden for our county.
Schuster and his wife Donna have been running this ranch for years. These corrals used to be bustling with goats and sheep to be sheared, but like many in agriculture, they've had to scale back.
Sheep and goats and stuff was huge for us back in the day, Angora goats especially. The mohair incentive and stuff that was involved, and then the wool incentive as well. But today we're just a cow-calf operation.
But down here on the border, the bottom line isn't their main worry.
My backyard is bigger than your backyard. I have this whole ranch, but how would you like people, just traipsing through your backyard without permission?
A few months ago, a group stole this tractor from Schuster's property, then used it to drive through at least 9 fences, causing tens of thousands of dollars in damage.
We're 2.5 years into this deal when this happened here. Cost was almost $15,000 to get the tractor fixed and stuff. No insurance, obviously, and everything. So, you just get it fixed and keep going because it has a sole purpose for us, and that's to shred the brush for us and everything in our country.
Donna now only works during daylight hours and has to rely on a companion to watch her back, all because their property has navigation points that are relayed to border crossers by the cartel.
We have a rest area near our house, and they get dropped off there sometimes. We have a transmission line that goes through our property, so that's a highly traveled area. We also have a Doppler radar that's a pickup point.
Schuster, who's a judge in Kinney County, says in the last 4 years, Class A trespassing misdemeanors have skyrocketed from about 100 annually now into the thousands. He says county law enforcement can only bust illegal border crossers if they trespass. Otherwise, Border Patrol has to step in. Only problem is there's more than 1,200 miles of border and not enough people to patrol it.
Law enforcement officers, they tell you all the time, hey, you pay attention to your surroundings and be conscious and be aware, but after they go home, after a 10 or 12-hour shift, they're done. We're not. It's a 24/7 issue for us.
Schuster's not without his humanity. At the end of the day, he knows these are people looking for a better life, but the risk is now too high.
We don't even stop and help anymore, and that's sad. That's heartbreaking as a Christian that I can't, I don't feel safe in helping, putting out that helping hand, because if we help 2 today, there may be 30 here in 2 or 3 days because they mark you, they pin drop you. They say, go by this house, they'll help you. They're there to help. They're gonna give you food and water or something.
And of course, there's the age-old question that's asked of every Louisianian after a hurricane: why not move?
This is our home. My kids were born and raised here. Lived here 31 years. It's where my wife, this is my wife's family's place. This is where she wants to be. So that's, it shouldn't be like that. I shouldn't have to live like that.
The Schusters, like many in America, are very curious to see what the next 4 years of this administration will bring. Reporting from the U.S.-Mexico border for This Week in Louisiana Agriculture, I'm Josh Meeks.
President Donald Trump promised mass deportations in his campaign speeches, but it's still too early in his administration to speculate on what that might look like so close to the border.
Speaking of borders and President Trump, some in the Canadian government are warning that exorbitant tariffs could impact the American farmer. Louisiana is the 9th largest exporter to Mexico and Canada. While most of that is oil and gas, there are still hundreds of millions of dollars in vegetable oils and grains that come from medium and small-sized farms. Steve Verheuel, former Assistant Deputy Minister of Trade Policy in Canada, says tariffs are seldom a one-way tax.
Well, 25% tariffs, if they're going to hit all Canadian exports to the U.S. with 25% tariffs, that will put Canada immediately into recession, and Canada will have to respond. And the government has said we will respond dollar for dollar. It won't be 25% across the board. It'll be 100 to 100% on a lot of products. And American agricultural products will be a focus, unfortunately.
The U.S.-Mexico-Canada agreement, formerly known as NAFTA, is seen by many as mutually beneficial toward U.S. farmers. A massive tariff hike on our neighbors would likely mean the end of the agreement. We've talked a lot about policy and issues, but what makes the American Farm Bureau convention is the people.
Louisiana Farm Bureau President Richard Fontenot says at this national conference, Louisiana was well represented.
We got over 60 folks from Louisiana here, not including staff. Louisiana is a really good delegation that's here participating at all different avenues, from labor to foreign policy to the dynamics we're going to be discussing in policy development and in terms of our policy development moving forward with AFBF. We have a lot of volunteers here, and engagement and participation is key to our success within this organization, and we have that here in Louisiana as a player at the table.
Fontenot says the engagement of Louisiana Farm Bureau members is what gives power to the organization. We'll show you later on in the show more ways those members were involved in this convention. And there's a lot more from convention on this special edition of TWILA. We'll show you the farmers, ranchers, and educators who competed in the annual Farm Bureau competitions.
Plus, why is convention so important to the Louisiana Farm Bureau? We'll hear it straight from the volunteer leaders who made the trip next.
You're watching This Week in Louisiana Agriculture, the only TV show bringing Louisiana farmers and consumers together every week.
Louisiana had strong representation in 3 competitive categories at the American Farm Bureau Convention. Hannah Duvall of St. Martin Parish competed in the discussion meet where competitors discussed important agricultural topics. The first round discussion centered around succession planning. Unfortunately, she did not make it to the Sweet 16, but Duvall held her own against some very stiff competition. Clint and Raquel Manuel of Evangeline Parish represented Louisiana in the Excellence in Agriculture competition here. Raquel, who is expecting their 3rd child, said during their presentation they're planning to expand their livestock herd, bucking the national trend. While Clint has an off-farm job, he told judges his passion is in farming and ranching. Louisiana Young Farmers and Ranchers Achievement Award winners Aaron and Jamie Lee of Vermilion Parish represented our state in the National Achievement Award contest. The Lees are 6th-generation sugarcane, rice, crawfish, and cattle farmers. While they did not advance in the top 10 here in San Antonio, we're proud of them, as we are all who represented Louisiana in the Young Farmers and Ranchers competitions. For young farmers and ranchers coming to compete in competitions, it's easy to see why they would make the trip here to San Antonio. But what about everyone else who traveled from Louisiana for convention?
This week, TWILA's Carl Wiggers caught up with some Louisiana Farm Bureau members to learn what brings them hundreds of miles from their farms and ranches to attend the American Farm Bureau Convention.
Y'all from where? Louisiana. Neighbors. This time we brought our whole family. We came to convention just to do the networking. We get to meet a lot of people. I just got done talking with a family from Texas that we had at our leadership conference for Louisiana, and they were our keynote speaker. And so you get to run into those people year after year, and you see them at different places, and you become friends, truly friends from across the country. And
I come to convention because whatever I learn here, I can not only take back to my own operation, but to take back to my community and my parish members.
First of all, to support the industry, support the organization, represent Louisiana.
American Farm Bureau Convention is a great place for us to get together, socialize with not only people from our state, but other states around the country.
We enjoy coming because it is a time for us to recharge. We get to be with like-minded people that are doing the same thing that we do day in and day out. They have the same challenges, the same achievements, and it's just a time to recharge. And I hate to say it, you've got to come so many hundred miles away just to even see people in the state that we don't get to see very often because they're all coming together for this one convention.
You get to network with people, you get to see things and talk to people from your different areas. This is the same. We're getting to talk to people from all over the country, weather conditions, what they grow, what they do, what they farm, and try to learn and take something back.
It's important to come to convention just to do networking with other states, to see what their issues are. We all have the same issues, and to make friends.
When we're only 2% of the population, it's hard to mingle with people that have the same interests, and we're all the minority, and it's hard to accomplish everything that we need if we don't step up and drive forward like the convention said.
I just walked out of a labor panel discussion talking about the challenges and hurdles, but also some of the political strategy moving forward with a new presidential administration coming in.
The new policies that are being passed and that Farm Bureau is working towards to help betterment of our American farms.
I like coming to American Farm Bureau Convention to network with other ladies that are having some of the same issues that we have.
I love women's leadership and being able to see all of the strong, the positive, all the smart, intelligent women who come together because we're all going through the same thing in our home states.
Most importantly, to get you out of your bubble on your personal farm and just let you kind of get a feel for what else is going on.
It's fun to be able to reconnect, but more than that, like the meat and potatoes of convention is getting to catch up on some really current affairs, relative issues in the moment.
If you have a little bit of FOMO, fear of missing out, don't worry. You can join us next year for the American Farm Bureau Convention in Anaheim, California. And you know what? If you go, why don't you just say you're going to Disneyland? And if you really do go to Disneyland, you're probably going to catch up with Carl Wiggers there because that's where he's going to be through most of it. But it is already shaping up to be an amazing AFBF convention experience. Well, still to come on TWILA. When it comes to the Lone Star State, we're just visiting.
After the break, we'll meet one Louisiana couple who decided to call Texas home. Beef prices at the grocery store are likely to keep going up as demand continues to increase and supply continues to decrease.
That's what American Farm Bureau Federation economist Barrett Nelson told this crowd. He says there is usually a 10-year cycle to the cattle markets. However, we're now in year 11, and the cattle herd continues to shrink as prices continue to rise. Many Louisiana ranchers reduced the size of their herds in 2023 because of the severe drought. Nelson says the lack of rain in many cow-calf states is to blame for this odd cycle.
Drought has been absolutely critical in where we've ended up today. We had 3 years of consecutive droughts that drove females onto feed and into the marketplace rather than being retained for breeding purposes. That's resulted in the tighter cattle inventory. It's resulted in a challenging profitability scenario, even with these higher beef prices. You know, when we look at the higher price, if you've got cattle to sell and you can retain your animals, you're in good shape. But if you've got to cull and you've got to buy to keep your herd growing and to continue it to the next generation, it's a challenge.
Nelson says high cattle prices coupled with high interest rates are preventing some young ranchers from getting into the cattle business. Now, from cattle to goats, the Louisiana delegation came to the American Farm Bureau Convention for the week, but one couple has put down permanent roots.
This week, TWILA's Neil Melanson profiles a Louisiana farm couple bringing a taste of home to Texas.
This year's American Farm Bureau Convention in San Antonio had a number of workshops devoted to improving farmers' knowledge. At this tax workshop, for instance, Stacy Roussel attended to help her small operation. She says learning both about farming and Farm Bureau is an ongoing process.
I'm still learning all of my my benefits. I just realized at convention that there's a benefit also to being a producers co-op member that I didn't know, discounts on vehicles and those kind of things.
When Stacy isn't attending conventions, she feels most at home at All We Need Farms here in Needville, Texas. It's a jump from her Louisiana roots in the river parishes. Her husband Jay is also a Louisiana transplant. Their children Emily and Jesse Claire have been raised here on the farm, though, even kidding around with some of their senior pictures. Stacy knew she wanted to farm here, but didn't have a clear direction until her daughters got involved.
My daughters asked for dairy goats for Christmas, and so my mother-in-law, I told her she gave us the gift that kept on giving.
Stacy's not just different from other dairies because of the animals. All We Need Farms is planning to expand in the near future.
And I'd like to grow 20% in 2026. So we're going to retain quite a bit of our babies from this year.
That business means a lot of factors and calculations to make the small farm successful.
I'm expecting her to make me a gallon a day. And if she's not going to be able to hit that bar, she'll be moved to another farm as a family milker because we are in the business of selling milk.
Stacy makes ice cream pops from this milk, and while her business model may have a lot of factors, her products do not. They have 3 ingredients: goat milk, sugar, and natural flavors.
Real cane sugar. Like, I'm not compromising on that. We're not buying beet sugar or high fructose corn syrup. It is got to be that cane sugar. And then real flavors, real strawberries, real avocados. Our goats do such good work that it's hard to mess up.
Needville has another Louisiana transplant. Bayou Boys is serving Louisiana comfort food in the Lone Star State, and owner Joel Barrios came to work in oil and gas, but found another calling that kept his Cajun Reeboks firmly on the ground here.
I thought whenever I thought that put a business together and focus in on Boudin. Boudin is really what I wanted to be the showcase. I thought I could do better.
That focus on Boudin has won twice in Louisiana. Of course, Bayou Boys does more than just that, including their gumbo, which took top spot 2 years ago, and of course, All We Need's goat pops. Barrios says aside from being delicious, what helps them sell is a little lagniappe.
I would say our freezer here is probably one of our most popular, and it's not because of anything we do, it's just because she has such a strong brand and presence in our community.
That handcrafted care is something Stacy is passionate about. From her family to the animals to her customers, Stacy says she's found her true calling.
I have a passion for improving the stock that we have, learning more and more about genetics every year. I have a passion for making people smile.
Now, while Stacy's Goat Milk Pops may not be a Louisiana classic, they are fast becoming a staple here at this Cajun oasis in Texas. Reporting from Needville, I'm Neil Melancon.
If you're interested in finding All We Need Farms goat pops, we'll link you over to their site on our website at twilatv.org.
Before we go, I want to extend a Texas-sized thank you to Gary Joyner, Ed Wolf, and the team at Texas Farm Bureau for helping us find some of the stories you saw here. Their communications team is top-notch, and we're so happy to have such wonderful neighbors. Well, that does it for this special edition of TWILA. Chris and I will have the next week off as students in the FFA take over our show.
Until then, you can watch all of our stories online at twilatv.org and on our social media platforms. You can also watch the episode and every past story on our YouTube, and make sure you turn on those notifications so you know exactly when we put out new content.
For all of us here at TWILA, thank you for joining us. We hope to see you again right here next week.